And welcome back. Okay, so we're still in the calculation section, and now that we know what a mole is, we're going to start looking at how we use moles in calculations. So there's going to be a few videos on this. This is the first one. So hopefully you'll be able to convert between mass, molar mass, and number of moles of a given substance, and be able to attempt exam-style questions where you have to convert between a mass of one substance to a mass of another substance in the same equation. So let's just remind ourselves what a mole is with the help of our friend Avogadro. So 1 mole is the amount of substance containing the Avogadro number, either atoms, molecules, or groups of ions. So how do we actually use moles in calculations? Well, the first thing I'm going to draw is what's called a calculation triangle. I'm sure you'll have used these either in science or in maths. So a calculation triangle connects 3 different things. The things we're going to look at are mass in grams, number of moles of substance, and molar mass, which has the units grams per mole. So once I add in the rather wonky triangle, we can now go through how to use one of these calculation triangles. Okay, so the 3 things here are linked. So the variable you want to calculate, you cover up, and then you write down the 2 other variables and the relationship between them. So let's try this out. Okay, so say we want to work out mass of a substance. So we cover up mass like this, and we write down what is left. So we have number of moles, pardon the shorthand, multiplied by molar mass. And that is the formula for working out the mass of a substance. You just multiply the number of moles by the molar mass. If we want to find out number of moles, we simply cover up number of moles like this, and we write down what remains. So we have mass over molar mass. And that is the equation for finding out the number of moles. Mass divided by molar mass. And then just to complete the 3 equations you can do, let's have a look for molar mass. So you simply cover this up and write down what is left. So the last one, we have mass divided by number of moles. Nice and simple. So this triangle just helps you remember the relationship between the 3 variables. Now let's start looking at the types of example you'll have in your AS level exam. Now one of the common questions is that you have to calculate a mass when you are given another mass in an equation. So let's just have a look at the different steps you would go through when you're trying to do one of these calculations. Now step number 1 is to write out an equation. Now for now I'm just going to keep it totally general so that we can focus on the different steps. So let's just go A plus B makes C and D. So that's step number 1, write out the equation. Step number 2 is to balance the equation. Okay, so obviously I'm just going to make up numbers just to add stoichiometry into the equation. Third step, highlight the 2 chemicals in question. So let's say we're going from A, we are given information about A, and we want to calculate C. Okay, next step. So you're given a certain mass of the substance. So write down what it is. Again, I'm just keeping it totally general so we can focus on the steps. So this will be given to you in the question. So what you do with this mass, you convert it to moles of A. And how do you do this? You use the triangle we've just looked at to go from mass to moles. Cover up moles on your triangle, and it is mass divided by the molar mass. So the way you would do this would be whatever x is, divide by the molar mass of A. Okay, next step. You want to go from moles of A to moles of C. Now how do you do this? Hopefully you will already have an idea, because we have looked at this in a previous video. You simply use the stoichiometry of the equation, the molar ratio. So in this instance, it's 2, because we have 2 here, to 3, because we have 3 here. So this is just simply a mathematical relationship, nice and easy. But for those of you still unsure about how to convert using ratios, what you do, you divide by the first number, in this case 2, and then whatever you get, you multiply by the second number, in this case 3. That would get you moles of C. So only one step left to go from moles to mass of C. So how do we do this? Well, look at the triangle in your notes. We want mass this time, so cover it up. And what you're left with is number of moles multiplied by the molar mass. So we already have moles of C, and we multiply by the molar mass of C. You might be given this in the question, or you might have to work it out yourself. Okay, and that will give you your final answer. So I've given you the general steps. I made it very general in the hope that you could just focus on what the steps are. But if this is all a little bit confusing, a little bit too much algebra, let's go through an actual example. So this is a question similar to what you might get in your AS level exam. Calculate the mass of calcium phosphate precipitated when 1.23 grams of calcium chloride in a solution was reacted with excess sodium phosphate. Now you may or may not have seen these chemicals before. It doesn't matter, okay? As long as you know the steps for going from mass to mass. So, first step would be to write out the equation. Second step would be to balance it. I've done that to speed this up, given that we've already looked at how to do that in previous videos. So third step is to highlight the chemicals in question. So we want to calculate the mass of calcium phosphate. So that is this chemical here. Then we are given information on calcium chloride. So that is this chemical here. So these are the two chemicals that we are interested in. The other two chemicals don't actually matter. They are irrelevant for this question. Okay? The only real reason you need them was to balance them in the first place. So now let's go through the other steps. Now we are given information about calcium chloride, and we are given the mass. So we need to convert this to number of moles of calcium chloride. Let's quickly just write down our triangle. So we divide the mass of calcium chloride by the molar mass. The molar mass, in this case, is given in the question, but you might have had to work it out. It's 1.1. Now, if you just put this into your calculator, you are given this answer here. I'll just put 0.01 here, but you should keep the whole value in your calculator for the next step, okay? Don't just round and use the rounded number in the next step. Leave the full answer in your calculator and carry on using that number, okay? So next step is to get the moles of calcium phosphate. So how do we do this? We use the molar ratio. In this case, it is 3:1. So we divide by 3, because that's the first number here, and then we multiply by 1. Obviously, this is just dividing by 3, okay? So this gives us 3.69 times 10 to the minus 3. Again, leave the full number in your calculator. So now we have moles of calcium phosphate. We just have one more step to get to mass of calcium phosphate, which is what it asked for in the question. So again, look at our triangle. This time we want mass, so cover up mass, and you are left with number of moles multiplied by the molar mass. So in this instance, It's 3.69 times 10 to the minus 3 multiplied by 310.3. Again, this is given in the question, but you might have to work this out. So again, put this into your calculator to get your final answer. 1.15 grams. So you can see I've left it at 2 decimal places this time because that is the same number of decimal places as was given in the question for the other chemical. And there you go. All you need to do is follow these steps. Now, most of the calculations in your AS paper will be mass to mass, but just be careful. They might start with number of moles and then expect you to work out mass. In that instance, you would just start at this step here, okay? Just be aware of what they're asking for in the question. But these are the steps you need to follow, and it won't get more complicated than this for this type of question, okay? Mass to mass requires the most steps, more than mole to mole or mole to mass, okay? So if you know how to do all these steps, any other related question you can do as well. So hopefully you can now write out the calculation triangle involving mass, molar mass, and number of moles. And you should be able to answer AS-style questions converting mass of one substance to mass of another. If you're unsure about any of this, have another look through. Please make sure you completed your notes, and I'll see you in class.